Hello everybody and welcome back, where today we're going to talk a little bit about Hellsweeper VR because it's just had its Wrath update, and the biggest thing about this update really, for me at least, was the visual upgrade. Now I've got to say thank you to Vertigo Games for giving me access to this one. I didn't get it at launch and I didn't cover it at launch, but thanks to them I'm able to jump in now and tell you how so damn good this game looks now.
The game looks really good though, like it's really sharp. Foveator rendering has done this wonders. And this is looking very Remnant 2-like, which is very cool.
These are all the cracks of it.
Before we jump into the gameplay of the game, and I do apologize, the gameplay that you're seeing right now isn't really that intense or exciting because it's from my first like 40 to 50 minutes of playing, mostly the tutorial and the first couple of levels, because unfortunately I did actually have a crash later on that then corrupted about an hour or so of my footage. So I've played around 2 hours-ish of the game to get a good grip and grasp on it. But without further ado, let's just jump into the game experience itself. To set the stage, Hellsweeper is a roguelite essentially. You jump into the same type of levels. They're generated differently every time you jump in, and you can make choices of what rewards you want to get as you go and what upgrades you want to get as you go. The same as a game like Synapse, where you have base upgrades that apply to all your runs and then different modifiers you can get within those runs. And that's essentially the gameplay loop that you're getting here, fighting against demons and Hellspawn to essentially try and redeem your soul. Now, the first thing I want to cover in depth here is the visual presentation, because it looks damn good now due to foveated rendering being implemented. I've seen a couple visual comparisons comparing it to how it used to look, and although I haven't seen how it used to look in the headset because I didn't have the game at that point, I can attest to it now being crystal clear. To the furthest and closest sites, everything is crystal clear, and it looks breathtaking. It reminds me a lot of Remnant 2 in some of its world design as well, and those vibrant reds really pop out through the screen, and I really enjoyed taking in all of the visuals of this game, especially since they look so good. And I believe that Hellsweeper VR is in Unity, meaning that DFR was probably a bit of a hassle to implement, but I think it is now possible in the latest branch, so Hellsweeper now has it, and that could possibly mean Vertigo 2 could also get it in the future. That would be very, very exciting. But here, it's on display, it looks incredible, the game looks great now. The actual gameplay itself I found pretty damn fun. It feels a bit like Dead Hook in that Doom sort of vibe, although you're being a bit more guided by fantasy elements here rather than sci-fi ones. And the combat is genuinely fun, and it's not even scratching the surface of how deep it can get from what you're seeing on the screen now, because this is quite early gameplay footage. Later on, you can do things like somersaults, you can absolutely propel yourself around the arena. It's a load of fun with a bunch of different mechanics in terms of how you move. Each of the levels are very arena-like, they're quite boxed in, but they give you enough freedom to move around and dodge as you really should in an environment like this and in a gameplay speed and loop like this.
This is slightly difficult. I did just accidentally parry one of his slashes though. That's pretty...
So the actual design of the levels I was really happy with, and the progression through them as they got gradually harder and harder was a satisfying progression as you can feel yourself getting better and better at the game and progressing further. You'll also encounter a whole manner of enemies, again only a few of which you're seeing in this video. I apologise very much about that corrupted video. But the enemy design ranges from pretty basic normal zombie looking dudes to flying heads, massive floating samurai torsos, women with 8 spider legs. There's all sorts of stuff here that will freak you out and also encourage you to chop them all up. And leapfrogging off that point, there's dismemberment here. It's gory, it's horrific, it's great. And I really did enjoy the combat here because the enemies react so well when, you kill them. You're given a manner of weapons to do this with as well, whether it be swords, axes, or different types of guns. I found the guns to be not too punchy in terms of their sound design, but they do have good haptics. And the swords themselves are pretty fun. You can also conjure magic, just like Wizard the Dark Times, and all of these things are conjured through use of hand movements, which work quite well. You move your hand either left, right, up, or down, and you'll do different summons depending on which one you do, and you can assign these in the menus to whichever you want, which is appreciated. You can summon a dog as well, which is very, very cute, that goes attacking enemies for you and then returns to you. But ultimately, the summoning system works incredibly well. I heard some things at launch that it was a little inaccurate. Seems they've patched that mostly up now, and I didn't run into many occasions, if any, where I was frustrated by the experience I was being presented through the motion gesture controls. The sword fighting is also a lot of fun. It's hack and slash based. And you can also parry some ranged attacks with your sword and blast them back towards your enemies, and also send ranged slashes of your own through sword movements too, which is really satisfying and cool. They've gotten really creative with a lot of these weapons and how you can use them against all the enemies you face throughout your playtime. The sound here is pretty good. Enemies are pretty identifiable by what sounds they make when they shoot at you, making it easier to dodge and dive and make your way through levels. As I said, the gunshots are a bit lacking, but it makes up for it in how it feels on the haptics, because the haptics are pretty stellar here. While the combat is impactful most of the time, in some of the busier scenes it can feel like you are just waggling your arms about and kind of killing things, a bit like Skyrim VR though, but mostly if you keep an eye on which enemy types are approaching you and actually cognitively think about it while you're going through the levels, then you'll have a good time here and not just feel like you're spamming the same moves over and over again. Much like other roguelikes as well, say like the Light Brigade, there's another boss level at each end of the stages that you do. And the bosses are genuinely pretty fun to fight. They summon minions and adds for you to kill. They have different levels of shields and different weak points, and you can vary your strategy of how you want to take them down, whether it be at range while dodging their attacks, or getting up close and personal with swords, or sending your K9 to go and attack them, or by using magic and fire. It's also worth mentioning progression because there's a fair bit of it here. There's a lot to unlock in terms of weapons and fire upgrades for your magic.
So if I tilt this to the side, I get a ricochet bullet. That's sick. Look at that. Cool.
And also, the game is co-op if you want to play it co-op, which is just awesome. So you can grab a friend and you can jump in and you can play it. I haven't quite yet. I'm meaning to in the future. A couple of people on my friends list own the game, so I'm very down to do that at some point. But there's genuinely a lot to love here, and that's one of the reasons why I also like Wizard of the Dark Times, is that it had a whole co-op mode there. You can play through this whole thing here in co-op too. It's one of the games where if you're struggling with your VR legs and don't like locomotion too much, I'd maybe warn you against jumping straight into this one. There's a lot of jumping about and a lot of fast movement. But if you're comfortable with your VR legs and playing VR and have the patience to kind of learn the controls and the mechanics, it'll really pay off for you because it's a load of fun. And if I had to describe it in one word, it would just be cool. The game is genuinely just cool with the mechanics it presents to you, the moves you can pull off, and the weapon types you're using, and the summons. Anyway, those are my first impressions of Hellsweeper VR. Since the new update, it's also my first impressions of the game overall, as I didn't try it at launch, but hopefully this pushes the boat out a little bit more that if you bought Hellsweeper and you haven't revisited it yet, or you've been meaning to jump into the game because you thought the gameplay looked good, but the visuals were lacking, so you haven't bought it yet, this is your call to go and have a look. I believe it's on sale right now. I'm not sure how long that'll last though, so just keep an eye on the date that this video was published. But yeah, Hellsweeper VR, I've been really enjoying it. It's kind of come back out of nowhere, had a little resurgence around the subreddits and Twitter and all that, which is really cool to see. But again, I've really enjoyed it. So thank you all for watching. Thank you to our patrons, Luke Bentley, Hazit Mirza, Phil Irving, and Ace Gamer. Your guys' donations help keep the channel running day after day and month after month. If you want to join the Patreon or YouTube membership, the links are in the description below, starting and ending at $3 a month. Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.